Hello everyone, welcome back to another Sunday special. In these videos, I go over the markets, I talk about setups and things to watch out for the week ahead, as well as trades that I'm potentially interested in taking myself. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe down below. We do this every Sunday. Like I said, it's completely free, and leave a like if you enjoy these Sunday specials. Okay, so got a lot to look at this week. Let's go ahead and dive right into some of the news that is going to be coming this week. So all eyes turn to U.S. employment report next week. Of course, we have NFP, which is a huge one. By the way, we'll be streaming that live. So if you want to come watch NFP release with us, feel free to do that on Friday, which will probably add to signs of gradual job recovery, as well as worldwide manufacturing PMI surveys and an OPEC meeting that is expected to offer guidance on the production plans. Elsewhere, key data to watch for include U.S. foreign trade balance, UK Q1 GDP, Eurozone inflation, business morale, Japan's tank survey. I'm not actually sure what that is. Industrial production and retail sales, and Australia, India, and Turkey foreign trade figures. Okay, so it seems like the big one for the week, though, is definitely going to be that NFP. And NFP, we'll actually pull it up on Forex Factory just so you can see it. Feel free to come to Forex Factory anytime you want if you need help with dates and times for news. I'll go ahead and apply this week and check this out. So here it is on Friday. We've got NFP. You can see that the forecast right now, and this is such a big deal because non-farm unemployment, that is basically talking about the unemployment figures here in the United States, which has a huge indication on economic health. So NFP, they're expecting, 700K new jobs created, or 700K. And then if that comes out better than expected, higher numbers would of course be better, and lower numbers would of course be not as good. So we'll see how that comes out, but it is there's some high expectations coming into the week. Okay, so with that said, we'll jump over to the charts, take a look at everything. So the DXY last week had a really good run. Now, I do want to say that it's sort of paused on its massive bullish run in the last few days, but for the most part, we have been seeing a lot of dollar strength coming in right now. Now, there's some mixed opinions on this. Some people think that this is just a head fake and that it is going to be coming right back down. Other people think that this thing is going to continue higher due to the shift in the Fed's monetary policy. For me right now, it is short-term bullish, long-term sort of mixed. But for the most part, short-term bullish just off of the news, just off of the reaction from traders, investors who are listening to the Fed sort of change their tone a bit here. Now, we will mark some levels. We'll talk about this a little bit here. We can talk about, for example, that we did form what seemed to be a pretty strong bottom here last week. You can see if we just extend this out, price came down to this point here at 91.6 and held really nicely. In fact, unfortunately, I got stopped out on a few trades here. Right around here, I was just a bit early and kept my stops maybe just a bit too tight, but we'll see if we can catch something a little bit better this week. In terms of resistance, of course, you've got that previous top to see, honestly, if you're a bull here, what you'd probably like to see is not a lot of hesitation to break that level, right? If the bulls are really going to get strong on the dollar, probably a reasonable thing to think, okay, if it gets up here, we want to see it break through that and continue higher. So definitely something to watch out for. Maybe this week, maybe next week, we'll see. Depends on what the US dollar news is looking like, and also just what bulls and bears decide to do with the price. So for me right now, I am looking for bullish setups on the US dollar. So one example might be if I were to just let's put in a fib retracement here from the low to the top here. If price does give us a little bit more of a pullback, this is a zone that I'm very interested in watching, which is the 38.2. Okay, if I extend that out with the rest of them. So the 38.2, if we draw fibs, if you're new to trading, well, all we did there is we basically drew a Fibonacci retracement tool from the low to the top, and this just gives us a few levels to think about in terms of pullbacks. 38.2 is roughly 1/3 of a way pulled back off of a move. Of course, the 50% is a 50 or a halfway pullback. So, we'll see if any of these levels come into play. But I think that for me, a 38.2 retracement combined with a nice little level here where we saw a lot of sellers previously could be a nice little area to look for some longs on the dollar. That's at least my view right now for USD. So with that said, we'll go into some of the individual crosses. But before I do want to remind you guys, this is our last chance right now for our 40% off sale that we're doing to kick off the summer. It is going to be ending soon. So if you're not already inside of the private Discord that we offer trade alerts. There's a chat room there for members. We also do weekly in-depth research that we put a lot of time into as a research team. There's a couple people in the office working on that that put together a research guide for traders. We also do live coaching webinars, so you can get in on some of the action with Joe Barreca out of Australia. He answers questions from members. He works with people there. So again, very, very valuable resource to you if you're a newer trader. If you're just out there losing money, instead of losing all that money, I would suggest you try our membership out, see if it really helps you. And I think that you will be very pleasantly surprised. Oh, also, you do also get our strategy and software library. So if you like indicators, software tools like Forex robots, things like that, we've got an entire library there for you as well. So check that out. There's a link down below in the description and a promo code for you to get that 40% off discount by becoming a member because you watched and support the YouTube channel. So thank you for that. Okay, so again, don't miss that. If you've been meaning to get in on that, there's your chance. Let's see what else we have going on for the US dollar. So let's go take a look at Euro USD for a moment and see if there's anything of interest here. So actually, I really liked the euro dollar this week for a potential sell, and I just missed it. This was a little bit of a tease here for me because I did like this level here. So I am redrawing a lot of my charts today just because, I don't know, it's nice to get a fresh perspective every once in a while. So let's just keep it really simple for a second here. So I basically, on the Euro USD, was looking for a setup on the short side, but you can see we missed out by just a bit here. I was looking for this 38.2 to get tagged. We came pretty close. And then on Friday, second half of the day, we pretty much saw some sell pressure there come in on the euro. I do like the idea, like I said, of if Euro USD can see a little bit more upside, if we can push up there to that 38.2, I love this level for a couple reasons. So number one, the 38.2. Number two, we've got a nice level of what previously was support and then failed pretty strongly here. You can see that that level looks like a pretty strong area for sellers historically. And then finally, it's a nice round historical number. So 1.2, right? I talk about this sometimes on my streams and videos, but this concept of a very round number is something that a lot of people are likely looking at and watching, right? So if we talk about Tesla stock, you know, it was a big deal when it went over $1,000, right? So when you have those sort of situations, that can give you a lot of psychological significance to not just you and me, but to a lot of traders who are looking at it. So to me, 1.2, a retest of there would potentially be a nice little sell setup for my strategy. Of course, what that would mean for me is that if I take that trade, I would put, you know, stops somewhere above so that should I be wrong, I'm not going to lose a lot of money. And if I'm right, maybe we could see a continuation back down to the lows and maybe even extend that further. In terms of targets for the Euro USD, I think a pretty reasonable place to head, should we see dollar strength continue, would be right on down to this level of 1.175. I pointed that out a few times on stream recently, but this level was a pretty major spot for buyers previously. And so I would say that a pretty reasonable place for price to go would be somewhere down there. First stop, of course, would be our previous low. However, we can actually mark that as potential demand as well, just to be objective there with it. So again, you've got some demand below, but for me, the supply is a little bit more interesting. You've also got this level here for potential sell setups, supply zones. And so I'm not opposed personally to, if I miss out, let's say, for example, that I take this first trade at the 38.2. Let's say I go I go short on the euro dollar as it pulls back to the 0.38. The 38.2, right? Let's say I go short there and price just doesn't really work out. I would not be opposed to stopping out and then trying to enter again on the lower time frames should we see another setup here at the 50%. Right? Because in that case, maybe my timing was just off a little bit and I'm still able to catch the majority of the move by just stopping out quickly on the first one. This is the thing for me with my trading is as I'm fairly quick to stop out of a losing trade, but I'm very stubborn on my winning trade. So I will hold on to them as much as I can. And so for me with the euro dollar, I am very willing to short this thing should it come up a little bit further. And so that's what I'm watching for this week. I like 50%. I like 38.2 on that move. Okay. So that's that one. Let's take a look at another one. Take a look at pound dollar here. So pound dollar, from just a technical perspective, to me, looks like it's headed lower. To me, it looks like we're headed down to 1.375. Big reason behind that is that we had a lot of dovish stuff come out from the Bank of England, basically talking about an unwillingness to hike interest rates anytime soon. That is usually perceived as a bearish thing for the currency, because remember that higher interest rates are a positive thing for a currency. It attracts investors and brings value to the currency when you have a high yielding interest rate, or that's the concept at least. So as long as inflation is not insane as well, that's where we see the exception. Like, for example, the Turkish lira. So when we're looking at this, when we're looking at the pound, if you're trading this, I would say, for me, I'm not really super interested in trading it myself, just because I do still like the pound. I like the potential for should hawkish statements come out from the Bank of England, I'd be very willing to look for long setups on the pound. But for now, I don't have a huge interest in trading this. If I did, it would probably be short term, looking for more downside to, like I said, 1.375. I think that's a reasonable target. It kind of looks like the euro here a little bit, right? You've got price, coming down pretty hard against the dollar, just because the dollar has been so strong recently. But again, we will see if that continues going into this week. Should dollar strength continue, I would expect pound dollar to make a quick move down to 1.375. Very, very keen on watching this one just to see, because I think from there you may get some sort of technical bounce. You may get some buyers who have been waiting to get in on the pound. Maybe that's their shot. So you could see a little bit of a pullback there sometime this week or next. So definitely worth watching. Let's take a look at gold here. We'll take a look at XAU USD, see what's going on with gold. And gold has been sort of stuck in a range. So last week, we saw a lot of mixed sentiment here. We saw price chop around here for a little while. And we pointed out in the newsletter, by the way, the newsletter is completely free. It's down below in the description. In the newsletter, we talked about how price looks like it almost tried to break out. But going into this next week, it will be a question of whether or not it can. Because if gold gets strong or the dollar gets weak, more likely, if the dollar gets weak, it could cause a price breakout of this little range here, which could start us into a little upward trend sort of concept. That could be an interesting thing to watch. Should you play or should you trade gold? Watch to see if we can get a breakout of this range, because if that range breaks, like I said, may have the potential to give us a little bit of run up, especially since we do seem a bit stretched on gold to the downside. It seems reasonable to see if we can get some sort of pullbacks here. But also one more thing to say is that if you see the breakout on the inverse, if you see sellers come in heavy on gold or the dollar gets very strong, watch out for something like this, because I think in this case, very clean path down to a daily level of support, which is going to be right here. You can see right down there at, what is that? That is about 1680 to 1700, somewhere in this range, right? So there was our previous low. So I would say if you're watching gold, just be cautious that should things start to look bearish, I think that there's plenty of more downside for the gold market to run. Now, again, if you're just looking at this and you think, oh, gold is going up, it's just a pullback, I would just also caution you that the longer term trend sort of favors the sellers right now. You've got the 200-day moving average. Price is back below that. It's not the same uptrend that we were back in 2020. We definitely have seen things shift a little bit. So I would just be cautious on the bullish side of gold, just because, again, we are putting in lower highs in the higher time frames. We do see the Fed talking down inflation a little bit, and that could continue. And it could also be something that is bearish for gold as well. Because remember, gold oftentimes rises with inflation concerns. If inflation concerns rise, obviously, people are like, well, I don't want to lose all my money that's sitting in the bank, so I might as well put it in something like gold, right? Which causes gold to rise. But if that is being talked down and moved away from, it's not so positive for the gold market. Okay, so let's take a look at USDJPY next. We'll take a look at this one and see what is going on with the yen. So the yen last week made its way up to previous resistance here at 1.11 just approximately. So let me do this. put this as supply. And I want to show you this. So 111 came into play this week for the first time in a while. So we came up to this level that we made back in April of 2021 and have actually held our own right around here. So for me, I think that this pair has more upside potential. I think that this one should close bullish for the rest of the year. That's just how I'm looking. You know, you've got this strong upward trend. You've got a nice little trend line here to the upside, lots of support, and we're sort of coming where, you know, where things are getting a little bit tight in here. We got a lot of buy pressure, and we got sellers who are trying to hold this. And the question is, can buyers break through this level? Can we get out of this range here to look to go higher? And so for me, I think that the dollar yen, should we clear this level, has a lot of upside, because we got to start looking super long term to really find major areas of resistance that actually kind of make sense for the dollar yen. I mean, you could argue like way back here, or you could even argue up here could be targets for the dollar yen, which is a move up to things like 112.5, 112 roughly. You know, those are big moves. Those are big aggressive, you know, breakouts. You're talking about a break of, what is that? Approximately 150 pips or so. So if that happens, you know, you could see price headed up to those zones next. In terms of support, if we drop it down to the 4-hour view, if you're looking at this thing potentially long biased, I think you've got some support here at a pullback, maybe. Also here. So these are levels that, you know, for me, if I saw this thing dip a little bit, I would be interested in maybe picking up some dollar yen longs, should we see a bit of a retracement there. And then also the other trade that I like is a break above structure here. If we do see that 111 break, looking for retests to continue that uptrend. So I am very bullish on this for now, dollar yen, that is, because again, bullish on the dollar and bearish on the yen. The yen is a risk off currency, meaning people tend to buy it when things are fearful and uncertain because of their stability there in the Japanese economy. So right now, though, with the markets and everything looking fairly positive, unemployment dropping, again, will be interesting to watch this week because we have unemployment numbers coming out in the US. You know, should things continue to do well, I would expect that the yen does not do so hot. If things get scary, sure, maybe we'll look to sell dollar yen or you know, something like that. But for now, things are looking positive, things are looking optimistic, and so I'm looking mostly to be shorting yen, buying things like the pound, the dollar, the Aussie, etc. Speaking of the Aussie, what's the AUDUSD doing this week? Let's take a look. So Aussie dollar is retesting a broken level of support. It is going to be a question now of, can the Aussie dollar, you know, for sellers here, is it headed lower? Are we going to hold this zone and go lower? Again, very much going to depend on dollar strength or weakness. The Aussie definitely will be heavily impacted by that. Again, we have unemployment numbers this week, so the US dollar likely will see some volatility. So when we're looking at this, like I said, retesting resistance, I wouldn't be quick to buy this. You know, for me, I'm not really interested in shorting it either, because I do like the Australian currency. They are a commodity-based economy, and commodity-based economies have been doing pretty decently overall in the pandemic recovery. So again, because everyone needs their oil and their, you know, their supplies, right? So the demand for raw materials goes up dramatically. So that's been good for Australia, Canada, New Zealand, places where, you know, a lot of raw materials come from. So I'm not interested in shorting the Aussie, but I am interested in potentially going long on something like AUDJPY. So again, another JPY cross that I am interested in going long on, because I want to buy the Aussie, short the yen. For me, right now, you know, you do have some resistance where we currently sit, but should price start to pull back, I could see, you know, looking for long setups on a pullback. Maybe you get some levels on the lower time frames that look good for me. Nothing too pressing here. What about New Zealand yen? Yeah, look at this. So New Zealand yen, kind of interesting. You had this break of resistance, and now you could actually go ahead and mark these levels as potential demand levels. So should price start to pull back on that, maybe interested in picking up some New Zealand yen longs going into this week. That definitely could be worth considering. Of course, if I take any trades, you guys, they will be alerted down below in the Discord that I mentioned earlier. And don't miss that. Like I said, 40% off. It doesn't come very often. So if you've been meaning to get in on the group, there's your chance to do so for the cheapest price. I know I keep saying it, but again, sales ending. So I just want to get people in there who are interested in getting it before we get a bunch of emails that say, hey, I missed it. I didn't get in there. Can you open it up for me? And we will have to say no, sadly. So don't miss that. Check it out. Link down below in the description. So dollar yen, we looked at dollar yen, we looked at Aussie yen, New Zealand yen. Pound yen is the last one I want to look out for the yen crosses. The pound yen has been very, very volatile recently. You can see we shot down dramatically about a week ago or so, and then we shot right back up. We saw incredible buying resilience there at the 61.8, which was a really good sign for buyers. One thing I will say is that we do have this little counter trend going on for sellers. Big thing to watch for would be, can we break out of that? Because to me, if we break out of that, it's clean heading back to the top and maybe even beyond. This thing is in a strong upward trend overall. And so looking for signs of continuation for me is the name of the game. Most likely when I'm looking at this currency pair, I'd be interested in looking, like I said, long biased on this currency pair, long biased on anything against the yen right now, except maybe the Swiss franc. Speaking of the Swiss franc, we'll take a look at USDCHF. This one is really hot on my radar. Although I took 2 losses on this one already, I tried to go long in this position, got wicked out, unfortunately, but it's okay. It's a fresh week, and I may be looking to re-enter some of these trades on dollar yen, dollar Swiss. I do like the idea also, though, of trying to wait for a retest of support. You know, should you see something come into play, you know, you've got something here, but I'd really want to wait until you get something a little bit deeper. I really like that 50% retracement for a potential long setup. If that comes into play, I will definitely be interested in looking at the dollar Swiss for a potential long setup. Again, if I take a trade, you guys will see the full trade and details. I'll show you just for fun what the trade that I took looked at. So I took, here's my dollar Swiss franc trade. This one did not work out. I ended up losing on this one, which was unfortunate, but you can see the idea there was decent. Like, I like the overall uptrend, and things just unfortunately got weird on a Friday and stopped me out of the trade. So it happens, but it's okay. It's a fresh week. We'll look for new setups that have more promise and go from there. I like to also, like I said, even though this was a losing trade, I'll still show, you know, I try and go for, when I take a trade, I go in as detailed as I can with my reasoning. I kind of treat this like my journal. So just even if you're not joining the group, I would highly encourage you, if you're taking trades, consider just like writing something down, maybe on a Excel sheet or a Google sheet or a piece of paper, whatever you use to your trades. I like to journal my trades, even if nobody was watching, just because it helps me to, you know, sort of present my idea to myself and to others that are interested in seeing why I take the trades that I take. So again, if you're not already in the Discord, that's kind of what it looks like. If I take a trade, you'll see it this week. Definitely have some things hot on my radar, so I will be watching that. Last thing I'm going to take a look at is SPX 500, just out of curiosity. The SPY, of course, breaking through the highs, making all-time highs here. Nothing new here. This thing has been on a running uptrend for a very long time. Of course, breaking through this just shows that resilience from the stock market. You can see it is still very, very strong. Should things pull back, maybe I'd be interested in looking at, you know, maybe short term, some trades that are available there may be interesting. But for the most part, I am not really interested in trading the S&P. Again, very, very strong. You know, every dip seems to get held very nicely. And for me, that's not something to fight. I probably would just be interested in looking to go long until things change. Now, again, if you're like long biased, I'll give you a real quick example. The cool thing about being a trend follower is that you could be long biased all the way up here until right around here, you could look to just stop being long biased, right? And this is the cool thing about being a trend follower. You could catch all these moves without predicting much. You're just going with the flow. And then once things change directions, you're basically saying, okay, yeah, things have changed. I'm gonna either just get out or maybe even just go short, right? And this is not just something that's applicable to stocks or the S&P 500. It is also just applicable to markets in general. A lot of times you get these really beautiful trends and you can look to just get out as soon as things sort of change direction. So again, for me right now, the direction is up for a lot of these things that we've talked about today. I'm just going to be going with the trend and continuing to look for pullback opportunities. So with that said, you guys, thank you very much for watching today's Sunday special. If you did enjoy, make sure to smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you back in the next one.